Shopify's point of sale system helps you sell at every stage of your business. Need a fast and secure way to take payments in person? We've got you covered. How about card readers you can rely on anywhere you sell?
Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, that too. Want one place to manage all your online and in-person sales? That's kind of our thing. Wherever you sell, businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/listen. Shopify.com/listen.
Hi, I'm Diane Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the book starter run for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is a certified porn addiction recovery coach, none other than Mr. Chris Rogers. Welcome, Mr. Chris, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Daniel, very much for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you. Again, my name is Chris Rogers. I am, as previously stated, a certified porn addiction recovery coach. I help people from all around the world develop healthier behaviors, develop self-awareness through compassion, through community, and through camaraderie. Nobody recovers alone, and they don't have to. So my program, the Rebooted Teen program, is all about specializing in young people's breaking out of unhealthy coping patterns and showing them that there is a life beyond excess stimulation. There is a life beyond social media, and there is a life beyond their screen. And that's what we're all about.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Chris. Thank you. And today, as we agreed, we're gonna talk about certified porn addiction recovery coach. So tell us, Mr. Chris, for someone unfamiliar, how do you define the role of certified porn addiction recovery coach, and how does it differ from a therapist or a sponsor in a 12-step program?
Not so good. So my role as a coach is really, really important. And just to quickly differentiate the difference between coaching and therapy, both can be really, really useful, but both serve different purposes. It's like they're playing on the same team, but they play different positions, right? So we have a therapist who specializes in making sure that you're recovering from perhaps some form of mental illness, whereas a coach is giving you the system, the community, and the accountability to have you have the most direct path possible toward mental wellness, particularly if there is a goal that you want to achieve. And that is on the side of the aisle that I fall into. And particularly when it comes to compulsive behaviors around something that has such a big a stigma, such as pornography, we dive into conversations that I think should be had, more often, because the more we pretend certain things don't exist, the more the stigma will persist. And when it comes to young people, first of all, we're dealing with a generation that's it truly is a brand new world compared to when I was a teenager. When we're talking about the influence of social media, when we're talking about artificial intelligence, when we're talking about the idea of quote unquote fake news, it's becoming more and more difficult to know what's true and what isn't, especially for a brain that is still developing. So you and I know, okay, maybe there's a horror movie happening on screen and we know that it's just a movie, but for somebody who doesn't have the experience that you and I only sees monsters. So when we're talking about differentiating fact from fiction, it's not a matter of leading with a shame-based approach. It's about meeting them where they're at as somebody that's discovering the world truly for the first time. So the conversations we have are all based on compassion. Again, they're based on community, and they're based on having them decide what the finish line is. My role as a coach is to not tell somebody how they should live their life. My role as a coach is to learn what they actually want beyond their compulsive behavior and give them the tools and the accountability to make sure they have what it takes to get themselves there. I'm a facilitator, I'm a cheerleader, I'm a confidant, I'm someone who's going to push them, but in the direction in which they truly want to go. So that's in essence what the Rebooted Teen program is all about.
Mr. Chris, as certified aspects, what does the certification process entail? What kind of training in psychology or neuroscience and trauma is involved to ensure you're equipped for this sensitive work?
Well, first of all, I mean, when it comes to my certifications, I am a certified relapse prevention specialist, studying under Terence Gorski. It was a, it was a really, really educational experience for me. It was a hardcore, intensive workshop that I was in the room with other licensed therapists and coaches from different aspects of the recovery world. And I actually had a unique perspective, considering that I was the only one with a background in a behavioral addiction as opposed to a substance one. And it was such an educational experience. And as far as my professional experience goes, I work alongside a company called Elevator Recovery, where I speak to men all around the world every single day that happen to have a history or are currently struggling with a compulsive behavior. And through that, I was able to achieve my first certification as a certified porn addiction recovery coach. Just someone who is not only able to talk the talk, but as someone who's walked the walk. I'm someone who has had a past of, these types of compulsive behaviors, but through following a system and through latching onto community and being held accountable by other like-minded individuals, I was able to find my own path and kind of forge my own way. I'm able to take what I've learned to, going back to that same horror movie scenario, I now know where the jump scares are. Like, I'm able to warn someone ahead of time of what to do. But as far as, my professional certifications goes, I have, maybe you can see on my wall somewhere back there, they're over there. But that's essentially where I come from professionally.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chris, for empowering us. Your work requires navigating immense shame and secrecy. How did you initially establish a safe, non judgmental space that allows clients to speak openly about deeply stigmatized behavior?
I've been in their shoes, as somebody who knows what it's like to feel as if they can't speak to somebody about this, as somebody who knows what it's like to feel alone with these types of thoughts, with these types of feelings, with this type of behavior, and just not knowing where to turn, suffering in silence. I know firsthand what it's like. So sure, we can talk about statistics and we can talk about, the, neurological aspect of how excess pornography viewing can affect the brain, but at the end of the day, I'm someone who cares, not because I know a lot of stuff, it's because I've been there. So when it comes to establishing that place of non-judgment, there's never any judgment that comes from my end, only because I have a very personal experience with this type of world, not only having been through it, but having overcome it. So I take great pride in not just sharing the information, but instilling a sense of inspiration. Not because, oh, I'm so great. It's because that just to prove that change is in fact possible. It won't always be easy, but with the right help, it can be simple.
Yes, it can be simple when Mr. Chris is around to coach you. For sure. So, what is the central guiding philosophy of your coaching method? It is about willpower and abstinence, or is it more about addressing the underlying pain, trauma, or neurological patterns driving the behavior?
I mean, I think you nailed it on the head. I mean, it's the latter. The whole world of recovery essentially works like this. It's not the thing, as in, it's not the behavior, it's not even the substance, it's the place from which it's coming from. Particularly when you get to a point where you yourself come to grips with the fact that, huh, this type of thing has proven to be unhealthy for me, and yet I still continue to go back to it. It's that inner magnet that draws you toward that particular world that you told yourself over and over again that you weren't going to go back to. It's about addressing what is that inner magnet. So, as far as the overall approach, there is an exercise that I've learned that really honestly has changed my life, and it comes from the book that I'd love to share with you. The exercise is called dialoguing, where you get to literally take a piece of paper and a pen, and you get to essentially have a written out conversation between yourself and a particular thought pattern or feeling or urge, perhaps. You get to personify it. You get to actually give it a voice. And when you do that, you accomplish a couple of things. Number one, here's you, and here's the thought, feeling, or urge. You separate yourself from it, but not in a sense of like, get out of here, thought, you're bad. It's a matter of separating it. Just you write something, and then your subpersonality or your thought, feeling, or urge gets a chance to respond. It's your nervous system being your nervous system. One thing I've learned that was so, so important, and one thing that I try to teach to my clients, is that a feeling simply wants to be felt. That's it. It's not out to get you. It's not out to dominate you or hurt you. It's your nervous system sharing information with you about yourself. So when you get to the heart of that sense of awareness, to that sense of presence, to that sense of acceptance, you have a much higher likelihood with, as it's said in certain recovery worlds, live with life on life's terms. To confront that inner magnet, not out of a sense of, a knight trying to slay a dragon, but understanding that there was no dragon at all. Maybe it was a hurt or scared child. Maybe it was someone who didn't know any better. It's developing a sense of compassion for yourself. It's a sense of choosing forgiveness over holding on to grudges. It is a journey within. I mean, really, if someone wants to recover from something like addiction, the only way out is through. So I think you verbalized it beautifully. It is that sense of what's going on internally to the point where it's affecting me externally.
Mr. Chris, on understanding the addiction, beyond the behavior, porn use becomes an addiction not in the act itself, but in the why. What are the most common root causes of underlying issues like anxiety, depression, trauma, or loneliness that you see fueling this compulsive behavior?
Well, this is what makes something like pornography its own animal. And it's really, really interesting. What often starts out as innocent curiosity can easily become a coping mechanism. I mean, studies show that the average age that a child first stumbles onto pornography is between 10 to 12 years old. I myself was 14, so pardon me, I guess I was a bit of a late bloomer. But what starts off as innocent curiosity, again, as I said, can become a compulsive behavior. We notice that it does that when it takes the place of interaction with others, when it takes the place of dealing with things like loneliness. One thing that excessive pornography can do is instill this value within us of immediate gratification. I want what I want, when I want it, and I want it now. It can teach a young person that that is how life works, especially if the behavior is consistent, especially if the behavior happens a lot, right? So, as far as I just want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly. Can you just repeat it one more time?
Yes. So porn becomes about addiction, right? And how would you overcome it since we doing it again and again? how we overcome it, as you talking about already, because it's become part of a routine since we are at the young age.
Yeah. And how do you overcome pornography addiction? I mean, that is the golden question. And the first thing to do is to really do two words. And those two words are slow down. And for a young person, that can often feel like a
Hmm.
foreign concept. We live in such a fast paced world, where information is just only a click away. For us adults too, it's the world that they know. So when it comes to what it takes to overcome something like porn addiction, the value is in slowing down, as in, hold on a second, this is a decision that I'm making. This is a choice I'm making. And when you get the opportunity, or rather, when you take the opportunity to slow yourself down, almost look at yourself from like a third party point of view, hold on a second. Is this decision taking me closer to the person that I want to be or further away? It's about instilling a sense of choice. We know when someone becomes addicted when they feel that option, that sense of choice becomes increasingly more foggy. Anybody who struggles with a compulsive behavior feels as if they have no choice. Like you said, this is just who they are. This is part of their identity. This is part of their routine. But when you slow yourself down and realize, for example, if somebody has a slip, if somebody falls into a relapse cycle, that's not a singular event. This comes from the book I'll introduce as well. There's a concept called a choice point. So, for example, if a slip becomes physical, that's not a singular decision. There's a bunch of choices that lead up to that final decision. So let's say somebody were to act out to something that they see on the internet, right? One sub choice in that series of choices could be sitting down at their desk. Another could be opening up their computer. Another could be typing in their website that they like. Another could be scrolling around on that website for an extended period of time. When you space everything out, when you slow it down, you realize a slip is not just a singular situation. It's a series of choices that lead up to a slip becoming physical. So, how do you overcome it? You give the client the concept of choice back to them. You have them remember that despite what we might be feeling, despite our circumstances, you always have a choice. The way out is through. And when you actually follow through with that, I mean, you mentioned the word empowered before. Recovery is oftentimes a difficult feeling journey, but what happens on the other side is that sense of empowerment. It's almost as if you're becoming reacquainted with yourself, like kind of seeing like a friend that you haven't seen in a long time.
Mhm.
So that's the value that I try to instill to anybody willing to listen.
Mr. Chris, from brain science perspective, how does compulsive porn use rewire the brain's reward system, and why does it take too difficult just to stop?
Well, I think it really, really hurts for someone who says to somebody struggling with a compulsive behavior, oh, if they wanted to, they would quit. Or if they loved me, they would quit. That's not how recovery works, unfortunately. How it affects the brain neurologically, I mean, happens in a myriad of ways. We all know the word dopamine. When we're targeting the brain's reward center, that can easily be hijacked and taken advantage of. I mean, consider what porn does to the brain. When somebody has an orgasm, we know the chemical dopamine, the quote unquote feel good hormone, the uh, hormone that's responsible for something like motivation, right? It's
Mm.
actually not the only hormone involved. There's another chemical called norepinephrine, which is really, really insidious, but very, very powerful. It's in charge of something what's called euphoric recall. So let's imagine you think back to the last time that you acted out. You remember that rush, you remember that euphoria, you remember that high, but forgetting almost conveniently the adverse consequences or the trouble that you were feeling internally or the inner discomfort that you were feeling before you decided to have a slip become physical. Norepinephrine is in charge of taking that particular memory and storing it somewhere in your brain that classifies it as important. It's the reason why you continue to go back. Of course, there's adrenaline involved. Of course, there are opiates that you can easily buy from the store or in the most desperate of circumstances off the street that you actually produce internally. When an athlete is, coming off of an injury and they're taking, painkillers, like these endogenous opiates, or like opiates that you produce inside your body, when someone experiences an orgasm, that rush, that's all coming from within you. So we're not just talking about like, oh, dopamine, although it's a key factor. We're talking about how excessive pornography usage changes the chemistry of your brain. With excessive usage comes consistent changing. When we're talking about becoming reacquainted with yourself, we're not just talking about feelings and thoughts. We're talking about the way your brain was wired before you became addicted to something like pornography. So that's just a taste of how excessive use can affect it neurologically.
Distinguishing use from abuse, Mr. Chris. In a world where porn is, well, accessible 24/7, how do you help someone distinguish between casual use and genuine addiction that is negatively impacting their life, relationships, and mental health?
Well, my role, once again, as a coach is the fact that I can't tell somebody what is important to them. I can't do that. I can't read your mind and tell you who you are and what exactly it is that you want. My job is to facilitate your own journey toward self discovery, to get you to a place where you become very, very honest with what works for you and what doesn't, what's proven to be healthy for you and what hasn't. A lot of the Rebooted Teen program is exactly that type of process through exercises like developing self awareness, through engaging with other people, other people that enroll in this program. You have accountability. You have other people to trade notes with. You have other people to confide in. Addiction lies in secrecy. If we truly believe, okay, this isn't a problem, I can just act out once in a while. Okay. Why don't we take some time away from it, become reacquainted with yourself within those uncomfortable moments, within those times that you feel like you want to act out? Just sit with it. Just take a moment. Give yourself the opportunity to sit with yourself. And if it proves to be unbearable, if it proves to be like the present moment is just itchy, then there might be something worth analyzing there. It might be worth considering that this type of behavior, while it might be able to be used casually by some, it might be a form of escapism for others. But we truly won't know until we separate ourselves, even if temporarily, from that particular behavior.
Mr. Chris, as a certified porn addiction recovery coach, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, my short term goal is to share with, again, anybody willing to listen, what's called the Rebooted Teen program. It's honestly been a amalgamation of a bunch of different worlds that I come from. Before I became a coach, I actually was working as a music teacher for a long time in New York City. That is a big part of my life. Sorry, I'm actually getting over a cold. It's a big part of my life, and I still love it to this day, but this was just a very important cause for me. So my short-term goal is to kind of take this experience that I have of teaching, of engaging, and breaking information down and applying it to this very, very important world, something that I believe that is worth talking about, that's worth exploring and worth helping people out in, I would love to share the Rebooted Teen program with as many people that are willing to listen. That's my short-term goal. On my long-term goal, I would love to take the show on the road, as they say. I would love to engage with people in person, whether it's speaking publicly, whether it's building this program to as big as it can be, in a year or two's time. I mean, who knows? I want to provide a sense of solace. I want to provide a sense of sure information, but again, inspiration, not just, sugary, like you can do it. It's a matter of this is what it takes to recover. This is what it takes to heal. This is what it takes to change. It may not be easy, but again, with the structure, with community, and with tools, it is possible. And my long-term goal is to share that message for as many people around the world as possible.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Chris, and
Thank you.
looking forward for more success. And what
Thank
would be
you.
your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
They want to be like me.
You want to be like
Ah,
you, Mr. Chris?
my goodness gracious. Well, I said this earlier, but I'm going to say it in a funny way, but there's a method to my madness.
Hmm.
It's funny, because I actually saw an in-person production of Hamlet, so I just realized, oh, method from my madness. That's actually a Shakespeare quote. But anyway, I am someone. I'm a former young person, and I know how crazy of a time that is. I mean, you remember 14, where
Hmm.
everything feels like it's exploding within you. You're kind of discovering who you want to be, what you like, what you don't like. But in this day and age, I mean, 14 when I was 14 versus a 14-year-old's experience now, in many ways, it's very, very different. People criticize this generation. Oh, they won't put their iPads down. They won't put their phones away. And I'm here to share that while I understand their lamenting as a former teacher, it's not all their fault. This is the world that was built for them. I mean, think about what life was like in 2020. For the students that I taught at that time, we were doing everything online. So here we are teaching them that pretty much everything from their schooling, from their friends, from their entertainment, to the answers to some of their questions, including what's happening with their body and some of the new feelings that they're having as they're growing and maturing, it all came from interacting with a screen. It all came from interacting with a device. So while I understand a lot of parents' stress, confusion, and frustration, I want to just throw a perspective out there. It's not all their fault. It's the world that they know. So the question ultimately becomes, what do you do? Well, one thing that I've also built is what's called the Rebooted Teen Parent Program that goes along with the Rebooted Teen Program. You actually have the screen on it right now. It's a series of free resources for parents that are feeling that strain, that may have found that their child has watched pornography and really don't know how to open up those types of conversations, really don't know how to facilitate a lot of those feelings, because understandably, it could be awkward. Let's be honest, it could be uncomfortable. I completely get it. So, how do you do it? Well, the first thing to do is, again, remember, it's not their fault that they found it. It's just a matter of communicating to them that you're not against them. I think so many young people, because of the stigma around something like porn addiction, they'll keep it a secret, right? It's like, this is my own secret thing. This is bad. And if someone finds out interacting with something bad, then they'll think that I'm bad. So my advice, as far as a place to start, for any parent out there, any well-intentioned parent that wants to help their child, remember, it's not you versus them. It's you and them versus the problem. You two are on the same team. You are the captain of a team, but you're teammates nonetheless. So if you're interested in learning how to facilitate some of those conversations and that overall process, I'd love to share my heart with you, as well as what I know, through the Rebooted Teen Parent Program. Again, it's free. If you go to rebootedteen.com, check it out. There's a private Facebook community that you can join and ask questions, interact with me, as well as other parents who are going through the course as well. And if you feel you need that type of help, I'm here to provide that.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. Chris. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Absolutely. So when I was in my first stages of my recovery process, I found this book that came very highly recommended to me. The book is called Breaking the Cycle, and the author's name is George Collins. He's a sex and porn addiction counselor, and he also talks about his own experience with, dealing with an out of control behavior and his own recovery journey. And every chapter is essentially a new tip, tool, or technique to help somebody out of a jam, to help somebody develop that sense of, like we were talking about, self-awareness. What's going on internally to the point where it's affecting me externally? And just within the first couple of chapters, this is where I learned an exercise that absolutely changed my life. And that tool is called dialoguing, like I mentioned before. It gave me a medium with which to process my emotions. As someone who would oftentimes try to maybe think his way out of problems, or maybe be uncomfortable with expressing feelings or being vulnerable or sitting with uncomfortable feelings for an extended period of time, this gave me an avenue to start to confront, as I mentioned, that inner magnet. What's going on with me? Who is Chris beyond any compulsive behavior? And every chapter, as I said, is diving a bit deeper, from really taking the whole recovery process and distilling them into really two major steps. The first step being awareness, and the second step being action. Because it's one thing to know about yourself and to know a little bit more about the behavior you're trying to recover from, but it's another thing to do something with it and to do something about it. And I recommend this book for today's episode because not only has it radically changed my life for the better, I think for anybody who's interested in this world of porn and sex addiction recovery, it's a great place to start. It starts off with a bang, I'll tell you that. It doesn't start off cute and fluffy, but it is a wonderful body of work, and it has changed so many lives. And I honestly think if anybody has taken this type of world seriously, it doesn't even have to be this particular sect of addiction recovery. I think that if anybody is trying to improve their mental health, to become more aware of their own spiritual nature, I think it's well worth the read, and I honestly can't recommend it enough.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Chris. Thank you. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season, abstract poetry in 2nd season, my book 101 review in 5th season too, comedy 101 in 3rd season, and my food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101, love letters, music 101, And Movie 101, our fourth season, Science 101, Section 101, second season of my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Chris, for someone listening who feels trapped and hopeless in the cycle, what is the most important message you hope you can offer them?
You're not alone. It might seem like a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. The more personal something feels, I guarantee you the more universal it actually is. Reach out, seek help. There are people who care, myself being one of them. And if you feel like you don't have the tools to communicate to your child, perhaps, if you have a child, or maybe have a loved one who is struggling with an out of control behavior, then my hope and my prayer and my mission is to give you some of those tools. And if you feel it's the right move, I would love to. I would love to help your child out in the Rebooted Teen program. But if you take anything away from this conversation, at the very end of the day, it truly is that you are not alone. I get it. So many people do, and it's okay to talk about it. I don't know who needs to hear that, but if that's you, here it is. You're not alone. People care, and you got this.
Yes, you're not alone. And Mr. Chris, last but not the least, what do you see the field of porn addiction recovery heading? Are we becoming more compassionate or scientifically informed in our approach?
I mean, the true answer is both. I mean, the compassionate approach should always be a part of one's recovery journey. But as we become more and more expansive, particularly in the world of technology, I mean, let's just look at where we are. I mean, we're living in the age of artificial intelligence. We're living in the age of, becoming more, and we're having more and more trouble deciphering, what's fact and what's fiction. So the science will be able to catch up with the times as far as the way technology is growing, and we'll learn more and more of how to keep people safe when it comes to interacting with the boom of technology. But one thing that will never change is the human heart, and that's our target, because as I said, it's not just the thing. Technology will grow and there will be new issues on the horizon. That's inevitable. It's not just the thing, it's the place from which it's coming from. And if you're serious about your recovery journey, the only way out is through. But the best part of all is that you don't need to go through it alone. That's why it's important to have a coach. And if you feel it's the right move, that's why I'm willing to be that coach.
Yes, definitely. And Mr. Chris Rogers, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So one more time, you can find the Rebooted Teen Parent Program over at rebootedteen.com. Feel free to follow me at Rebooted Teen on Instagram. I'm getting more and more active on there, answering your questions and sharing a bit about my life, so that way you know I'm not just a head on a screen. I am all about this world. I'm passionate about it, and I'm there interacting with those that ask their most pressing questions. Thank you, Daniel, once again for the opportunity to speak. And yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Chris Rogers because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering coaching to come. So, Mr. Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.